Well, hello everyone. Um, I was playing around in FreeCAD this morning and wanted to play around with some data-driven design and came up with this little nose cone creator. So it is driven by a spreadsheet which holds all the data for the nose cone. So if you're designing something for a specific rocket, you can put in the data, the length of the nose cone, body tube diameter and such to create a nose cone for 3D printing. That's kind of what I'm planning on using it for. So let me show you how to work this. Let's break this out. There you go. Now we have a separate window for this. So, and let me put this over here. Alright, so here's the nose cone, and as you can see, you will notice that it is all dimensions are in millimeters. So, but I did add a little converter down here so you can calculate any dimensions if you have them in inches. So, for instance, let's say in this case, a 4-inch diameter, or even nose cone length right now, 102 millimeters, which is about 4 inches long. So let me show you. So you can just go in here, change dimensions, 200, and you have a much longer nose cone. And change the diameter. Let's make that 80 millimeters. Bum. And the shoulder length, if you want a little bit of longer shoulder, make this, oops, gotta be in here, 70 millimeters, a little bit bigger nose cone. So you can play around in here and change dimension as you need. Here's maybe 2 more things, like the thickness, the wall thickness of the nose cone. You can change this here. The nose cone wall thickness, you can change it to, let's say, make it a little bigger, 1.6 millimeters, or even a lot smaller, 1.8. And then you also have the option, of course, for the shoulder up here, transition from the shoulder up to the nose cone itself. We have the dimension here, so the wall thickness, here's the body tube wall thickness. I did add already a little bit of tolerance, so this dimension from here to here, from here to here is actually a little bit more than 1 millimeter in this case. So I think it's 1.2, so you have a 0.2 millimeter tolerance for your body tube already. But if you have any dimensional issues, when you're printing, depending how accurate your printer is, you just add a little bit more body tube wall thickness. If it's too tight, you can make this a 1.2 millimeter, which makes the shoulders a little bit diameter a little bit smaller. Or if it's too loose, you can add a little bit, and of course you can always add tape to your nose cone if it's too loose, if you don't want to reprint. So anyway, so you can see I can make that was 104, which is about 4 inches. You can make this 300. So it gives you a lot of options here. Another thing that is want to make you aware of, I did add a little bit of round over here. Rather than have it go to a tip, this is currently a 1 millimeter radius. So this diameter here is 2 millimeters, which makes it a little bit easier for a printer, not having to print the super fine tip of the nose cone, which in my opinion is really not needed. If you have a very well calibrated printer, it might not be an issue, but that way you have a little bit of easier printing for your printer. Another thing you might notice here, visually it doesn't look as nice. That is part of the, I can actually show you where you can change it. It doesn't have an effect of the accuracy of the nose cone when you put it in your slicer. It will look properly. So that's nothing to worry about. But if you want to change, let me reduce this a little bit again here. Make this 50, and let's make this down to 60. Yeah, let's make this about this. Of course, length of the nose cone, if you want to 3D print it, it depends how tall you can print a nose cone. I think mine is like 25 centimeters, somewhere around there, a little bit more than that. So once you got the nose cone dimensions correct, let me dock this and show you the visual style that you can change. We docked, let's increase this again. So if you come in here under visual, under view, it is the normal, the normal is deviation is 0.5. So if you reduce it to 0.05, you see your nose cone will look much smoother. So this is just a visual representation, it has nothing to do with the actual accuracy. So, but the file is usually the default for FreeCAD is 0.5, and that's why it might not look as smooth, but in actuality it is. So once you're done, if you export it, file, export, or Control E, I usually use shortcuts, and step, I've saved a step file just for a better resolution. It depends a little bit on your slicer software. If they can read step files, I recommend using step files because the accuracy is much better than a STL file. So you can save this. Okay, I already edited one, so now I export it. Let me go to my slicer. Here's Orca Slicer, and let me import this file. And let's see how this imports. It might take a little bit. It's a little bit slow to import. I might have to refine some settings to make that work a little bit better. So let me get back to you once this is loaded. And here we are. There's our nose cone imported into Orca Slicer. I'm using Orca Slicer, and you can see the surface of the nose cone is perfect. There's no artifacts or anything, even though visually it might not have looked like that in FreeCAD. So, and then you can slice your model with whatever settings you need. And here you go. So, this is my little FreeCAD nose cone creator. I hope you enjoy that and play around with it. See if you see any issues. See if you can find a solution, or let me know what issues you run into. So, thank you all very much. Enjoy.